In 1930, 16-year-old Park Changsuu is beaten to death on the side of a hill. His killers are soon caught and his body is returned to his mother. 6 months later, Park Chang-soo appears in front of her doorstep alive. But then who is the boy in the grave with his name? The case. On April 29, 1930, a woman in Jiangchen village of Japanese-occupied Korea set out from her house to the nearby hills to gather grains. She found more than that. The Japanese police were deployed to the scene. They found the corpse of a teenager who had been beaten so badly that his body was filled with bruises and his face was unrecognizable. The body was carried to a local hospital and autopsy revealed the cause of death to be suffocation. The police assumed that the towel had been used to strangle him. At the time, the area was the epitome of the rural countryside. Murders did not happen in Yangchun. Even thefts were different, but now the police were tasked with recognizing the victim and the perpetrator. For 2 days, the police asked around the town if anyone had gone missing within the past week. There was a teenager named Park Chang. Park Chang-soo worked as a worker for a local inn. He had been missing since April 26, and on the morning of April 26, the innkeeper Ko Akijan and another worker Cho Kijan was seen beating Park with a switch. Park had not been heard from since. Ko and Cho were quickly accused. Ko denied the charges completely, but after 2 days of inquiry, Cho accepted the murder. The following is a summary of Cho's confession. The innkeeper Ko was the second wife of a rich man named Han Baek-won who lived a town over. As Han's first wife was jealous and did not want Ko under the same roof, Ko was given allowance to set up an inn in Yangchun. Ko was in her earlier 20s at the time and clearly she was popular with the men. When a man named Lee Ki-moon asked her to run away with him instead of refusing him, she asked him for a time to think. For whatever reason, Park told Han and Han reprimanded Ko. Furious, Ko conspired to kill Park with Cho. They took Park to the mountains at night, beat him and strangled him with the towel. Ko finally confessed to the murder as well but recanted during the hearing. The judge convicted the repentant Cho to 10 years and Ko to 15 years. In the meantime, the police had located Park's mother. When asked if the body was Park Changsoo, Park's mother confirmed his identity. She mentioned that the clothes were different, but that it was her son. Their job done, the police handed the body over to Park's mother, and the case should have ended there. The twist. On October 18, 1930, Park showed up on his mother's doorstep, and upon noticing him, his mother accused Park of being a ghost. It turned out that while Ko and Cho had taken him to the mountain to beat him, he didn't die. He passed out. When he woke up, he was understandably sick to return to the inn and instead walked to another village where he worked as a laborer for a household. So if Park was alive, who was in the grave bearing his name? Understandably, everyone was confused. Two people had been sentenced for murder and yet their victim was alive. The aftermath. Shortly the blame game began. The prosecutors pointed their fingers at the police. The police blamed the victim's family for being unable to recognize Park. So why didn't Park's mother recognize him? By the time Park's supposed body had arrived in his mother's village, he had been dead for a week. His face was unrecognizable, and as the saying went in those days, the Japanese police will take you if you cause mischief. Even if she had known it was not her son, Park's mother was unlikely to have gone against the word of the police. Also, if the police had paid better awareness to her comment on his clothes, they might have kept it as evidence. However, they handed the clothes and the poor body over to the victim's family and with that, the two clues to the teenager's identity were lost. As for Pearl and Cho, they were innocent of the murder of Park, but because the case was still open, the Japanese prosecutor Matsumoto expressed reluctance for a retrial. The presiding judge at the time has acknowledged the wrong judgment but stated that his hands were tied unless the prosecutors asked for a retrial. Yet, both Cole and Cho were granted a retrial. Both declared that they made false confessions under the brutal police investigation, and both were released. Cole and Cho would later go on to request reparations. However, as no such laws existed at the time for the Japanese Imperial Penal Code, their request was struck down. Park enjoyed modest fame afterward. The body discovered in Yangchun has never been identified. The case is closed.